What's up? I'm AJ, and welcome back to Gen Z Garage.
For those who have not seen my previous video, which I've linked at the top, this is part 2 of my Frunk restoration. In the previous video, I removed everything from the front trunk area that I could, and began sanding down the metal internal panels in preparation for painting. My goal is to completely strip as much of the loose paint and rust off the panels as possible, so that I have a good rust-free surface to prime and repaint. I use a combination of wire wheel attachments to scour the metal, depending on the different areas that I'm looking to tackle. Make absolute sure you use eye protection. These little metal wires can sometimes break free and go flying into your face. When I've gotten most of the area scuffed or sanded, I use my dad's shop vac to vacuum up all the dust. Remember, a paint job is only as good as the preparation. Any dust and grime you don't remove will show up as imperfections in the paint. With the front fully vacuumed, I then wipe down all of the metal with a strong degreaser like greased lightning. Even though this area is mostly protected from the outside, there's always an accumulation of dirt and grease from the brake master cylinder or the spare tire being used, so it helps to really get this clean. Finally, with the whole area clean, I then use a special paint prep spray from Eastwood. This removes any residue left behind by the degreaser, including any waxes or film. This makes a huge difference in the ability for the paint to properly adhere. This does not need to be wiped afterwards and will dry on its own after about 10 minutes. With the metal prepped and ready, I begin to liberally spray Loctite's Extend Rust Neutralizer on any bare metal areas, including any areas where there might be still a little bit of surface rust. This not only seals the surface, but also converts any latent rust to primer. I let this sit for 3 hours. Next, I tape off and paint the entire front compartment with a gray metal etching primer to help seal and build up the surface before the final paint. You'll notice that I also taped off my RPO sticker, as well as any wires, cables, and other things I wanted to protect. I then let the primer dry for 2 hours. Finally, I painted everything using 2 coats of VHT's epoxy chassis black, which I forgot to record.
What is this? Where did this poster come from? Who are these people? What is up with this man's mustache? Where did this come from?
You bet the internet?
That's crazy.
Alrighty. With the front painted, I begin removing the rest of the tape, including from the cables and even the RPO sticker. But while this epoxy paint is already pretty solid, it really takes a full day to harden, so I direct my attention to the spare tire tub. I use a simple scrubbing pad with dish soap to get the built-up dirt and grease off. This tub is actually made of fiberglass, and even though it may look good on the inside, it's susceptible to damage on the underside where it often takes a beating, so make sure you inspect it while you're cleaning it. This might also be a good opportunity to spray rubberized undercoating to the underside before you reinstall it. With the inside clean, I turn my attention to the different tabs and brackets. I tape these off and paint them with a flat black paint, like they came from the factory. Attention to small details like this are important in making the work look finished and not rushed. While that's drying, I move on to the heater core lines. The ones installed on the car when I got it were these large red heater lines. I ordered OEM replacement lines from Rodney Dickman, which are designed to fit my AC-equipped car perfectly, as the originals did. Before sliding the new hoses on, I rub a generous coating of PTFE sealant. This helps in 2 ways. It makes it easier to slide the new heater core line on, but it also helps seal the lines from potential leaks. It also protects against corrosion and rust. I start with the bottom smaller hose, connecting it at the heater core first, and then install the top larger hose and also use the PTFE sealer. I use brand new stainless steel hose clamps on both hoses. Keep in mind that these hoses are top and bottom specific. It's hard to mess this up though because the fittings on the heater core are uniquely sized for the hoses in the kit. That is, you cannot install the smaller hose on the larger fitting. With the pan still out of the car, now is a good time to replace the AC line seals since I'm converting to R134A from R12. Keep in mind that there are several seals on this car, one of which can only be replaced with the pan removed as shown in the diagram. There is also the expansion tube and filter, which is easier replaced with the pan out. With the expansion tube removed, I use needle nose pliers to remove the old filter. As you can see, there is evidence that the previous compressor had failed. I will need to flush the lines before I reinstall. With the filter out, I replace the seals with new R134 approved seals and install a new expansion filter. I now reinstall the fiberglass pan, which slips right back into place. You might be asking yourself, "Hey Jay, if you have the pan out, why don't you redo the steering and suspension?" Well, I suppose I could, but remember, I want to, as much as possible, restore the car and steps. So I'll get to that at some point next. And with the pan installed, I move on to reinstalling the brake booster. At this point, many people upgrade to the larger Chevy S10 brake booster, but honestly, these brakes are more than adequate for a mostly stock Iron Duke. And besides, mine were in really good shape. I did recondition it though. I lightly sanded, primed, and painted the booster with black epoxy paint. You might remember that the nuts holding it down are hard to get to. They're equally as hard to reinstall, so I use a ratcheting combination wrench, which makes short work of the crush nuts. You can get these at any Harbor Freight or Home Depot. With all 4 nuts installed, I then slide under the driver's side dash and reinstall the brake booster rod onto the brake pedal assembly. This slides onto the rod and is held in place with a small cotter pin. Next, I install the clutch master cylinder. Although the one I had was good, the original owner of the car had a brand new one as a spare. Comparing the two, I decided to use the brand new one, rather than reinstall the one I just took off. It's held in place using 2 crush nuts, and again, it's easy to reinstall with the ratcheting combination wrench. With it bolted, I again slide under the driver's side dash and install the clutch master cylinder rod onto the clutch pedal, which is also held on by a cotter pin. Next, I install a new remanufactured brake master cylinder. This is held on by 2 crush nuts, but before you install this, remember to first reinstall the brake booster plunger rod. This just slides onto the brake booster. It's recommended that you put a little bit of grease on the tip before installing the master cylinder. With the master cylinder installed, I plug back in the brake warning switch, and then rehang the wiring harness so that I can begin reconnecting everything. I move to the other side and I replace the HVAC fan. Probably could have done this earlier when I was disassembling everything, but I'd even forgotten I'd had it. It comes out easily using my 7mm socketed screwdriver. Looks like this isn't the first time it was replaced. I ended up replacing it with one that shares the part number for the 80s Corvette. This fan has a little bit higher possible speed, but comes with an extra hole that must be covered. I was able to find a rubber grommet kit off of Amazon. A single 3/4 inch grommet perfectly fills the hole. I then move back around to the other side and begin installing the reconditioned brackets. There's a few brackets here, but I take my time to ensure I figure out the best routing for the wiring to maximize space and reduce the look of clutter. Next, before I install the AC accumulator, I install the AC and fan relay bracket. I'd also previously replaced the fan speed control coil with a new one. Make sure when you remove the old one, if you saw any leaves in there, that you properly vacuum them out, otherwise it could cause a fire. I also install the underhood compartment light. It's places like this where a little attention to detail can dramatically improve the fit, finish, and look of the components. I painted the simple light bracket with black epoxy paint, but I also painted the underside of the housing area with a reflective silver paint that's only visible from the underside. This produces a much brighter light in the front compartment. Now I can begin reinstalling the AC dryer. Keep in mind that the seals here must also be replaced. I already replaced them with R134A compatible seals, which are the newer green ones. I used a little bit of PTFE on the threads and reinstalled the dryer, connecting first to the evaporator coil. Then install a retaining bracket and loop, and then the other end of the AC line into the dryer. Next, I reattach the AC and fan relays and slide them back onto the bracket I installed earlier. With all of that out of the way, I begin installing the upgraded jack bracket. As I'd mentioned earlier, if you want to upgrade to the much larger 1986 washer tank, you either need to modify or replace your 1985 jack bracket with one from a 1986 and higher. The one I'm installing was already in better condition than mine, but I still sanded it down and painted it with epoxy black paint. There's also a stud on the wheel arch where the original washer tank bolted to. This needs to be ground down and sealed. I've already done this and painted it. Although it seems like overkill, the jack bracket is bolted down in 4 locations. It holds not only the jack, but also the spare tire for moving around. With that installed, I now moved my cleaned and remounted spare tire back into place, along with the Rodney Dickman spare tire cover. Just like with everything else, even with the spare tire hold down rod, I sanded and painted it with a black epoxy paint. Next, I move on to the windshield washer tank. The newer 1986 tank is held on in 2 places, reusing the original top mount location with a new mounting point on the jack bracket. This new tank holds 2 times the capacity of the original washer tank. It holds an entire bottle. I'll never run out of washer fluid. I also reinstalled the windshield wiper fan motor, but not before I replaced the control board. I found an original Fiero replacement board from AC Delco, which easily swaps out without any modification. I also replaced the original firewall seal, which was old and dried out. I found 2 new old stock ones off Rock Auto, which weren't dried out and fit perfectly. With the cable reconnected, the wiper motor is properly reinstalled. Finally, I go back to finish some details on the HVAC system by reinstalling the cycle switch. I will eventually disable this as the new V5 compressor doesn't need it. I also seal up the top of the evaporator coil by stuffing it with a foam gasket that fits perfectly in the opening. I'll seal it up with some new HVAC putty at a later time. And last but not least, I reconnect all of the brake and clutch lines, mount my newly sanded and repainted tire iron, and temporarily reinstall the jack. This is just a start, but the front is starting to look good already.
In this episode, we restored the majority of the front compartment, and I got a new washer tank, which this is the old one, and the new one's at least double, so that's really cool. I'm not going to be running out of washer fluid anytime soon. In the next episode, we're going to be restoring the cowl and the rest of the front end, including the lights. So if you want to see that, make sure you like and subscribe, turn on notifications so you can see when I post that video, and remember to support your local SEMA San. Have a great day.